Good evening. It is Tuesday night, and it's the second week of my Facebook Lives on healthy aging, brain health, and eventually we will talk about, or I'll talk about, dementia and different types of dementia and dementia caregiving and things of that nature. But tonight I am talking about brain health. And as I was preparing for the talk, I started thinking about my years that I worked as a school psychologist, which if you want to know more about school psychology, you can go back and watch the video that I did a few weeks ago on careers in psychology, and one of the nights I highlighted school psychology particularly. So anyway, when I worked as a school psychologist, which I did for about 9 years in different places, I started out in Washington, D.C., in Virginia, Georgia, and in the Virgin Islands. One of my primary responsibilities was to conduct psychological or administer psychological tests, and a lot of those tests were IQ or intelligence tests, and those tests are designed to evaluate a person's cognitive abilities. And when I talk about cognitive abilities, I'm talking about things like perception, memory, learning, attention, problem solving skills, motor skills, visual, spatial abilities, let's see what else, auditory processing and visual processing or processing speed. I'm cheating, I'm looking at my notes. Also things like executive functioning, or a person's ability to plan and organize and initiate tasks, or focus and sustain their attention for long periods of time, or even manage their impulses. So impulse control also falls under that category of executive function. So my primary role as a school psychologist was to evaluate a person's cognitive functions. And I was thinking how awesome it would be if early on we started to talk about brain health and ways that we can try to preserve or improve our cognitive functioning or our brain health, and not just wait until like there's a problem, or that people have some issues in certain areas, which is really when I came in as a psychologist evaluating a person's cognitive function. So that is my goal now, is to start educating people more about what they can do to help to improve brain health and improve those cognitive abilities and preserve the things that they already have going on for themselves. So tonight's talk will probably be a little shorter. I have 3 points that I want to touch on in relation to brain health. And the first one is actually looking at brain health and cognitively stimulating activities. So one of the things that we've learned from a lot of research is that it's important to keep your mind engaged in activities where you're learning new things, or you're learning things that are challenging. And that's basically what I mean when I say cognitively stimulating activities. So these are activities that challenge your ability to think. And it's really a good idea to try new things. I know sometimes as we get older, we get a little risk averse when it comes to certain activities or trying new things, but it's really helpful for your brain if you challenge it at times and try a variety of activities. So some of the suggestions from the Global Council on Brain Health that has done some research on brain health and different types of things that can help to improve brain health. They say that if you're not currently engaging in a cognitively stimulating activity, you really should try to seek out something new that challenges you to think in a different way. And if you are already engaged in a cognitively stimulating activity, then continue to do those things that you're already doing that you enjoy, but just try to add one or two things, and maybe not too many at once, but maybe add one now and then a few months down the line add another one, just to continue to challenge yourself to look at things differently, to think a little bit differently, problem solve. Again, that's very helpful. You might want to participate in activities like volunteering or social activities in the community, because oftentimes when you're doing that, it forces you to be a part of groups or organizations within, or not organizations, but maybe different divisions or subsets within that organization, and be a part of a committee. Basically, that's what I'm thinking about. And then within committees, usually people are tasked with certain activities, and you have to engage with other people, which is very good for cognitive functioning, and to keep that fresh is that socialization piece, particularly with people that you enjoy spending time with. If you're on a committee, you may have to problem solve, again, which is a good way to challenge yourself to think differently. You may have to work together with someone on a project, and all of these things fall within that realm of doing something that's cognitively stimulating. Now, you be careful, because there are a lot of games and things that are out there that are advertised to be like brain games or brain health games, and they may or may not be helpful. It really depends on what the activity is and whether or not it's something that you enjoy, or something that you actually see as something challenging, whether or not it will really be beneficial for you. So I'm just looking down at my notes. So some recommendations of other things that you might want to consider besides volunteering, that will help you to improve your cognitive functioning. Maybe consider doing some type of physical activity, whether it's just walking or participating in a dance class that has like choreography, and it will challenge you to try to think of the steps and the order and plan and figure out when do I move my foot to the left, and when do I move it to the right, and how do I coordinate my my hands and my legs, and all of that is it's good. It's good for you to learn how to put those pieces together, right? Some of us that like dance naturally or move naturally to the music don't realize all the steps that are involved in really trying to put those moves together, but it really is a good cognitive exercise. And if you don't want to dance or go to a hardcore workout class or exercise class, you might want to do something that involves movement, and it's a little slower, like either Tai Chi or Qigong, or even practice some type of yoga. Again, if it's something new to you, then it is going to challenge you to start to problem solve and think of things a little bit differently and how to do this certain posture. You know, all those things are good. You might want to take a class. Just say, for instance, you enjoy taking pictures, so you might want to take a photography class. Again, another example of how you can get involved in an activity that will stimulate your cognitive function, your learning, and your memory, and your ability to apply that information is all helpful in preserving your cognitive functions. Some people are interested in doing things like gardening, or you might like technology and learning about technology. Those are all great things that you can do. So that's the first area of that can help with brain health, doing cognitively stimulating activities. The second area is, and I'm just moving my notes up, so brain health and sleep. So sleep is very, 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 it's important to all of us, but it's definitely important as we age. Sleep is vital to brain health and cognitive functions. And our sleep patterns do change over time. As we get older, our sleep patterns will change, and sleep disorders actually are more common with age, but the good thing is that they're usually treated successfully. So they're not disruptive for a long period of time if you seek treatment. Excuse me. As we get older, sleep becomes more vulnerable to disturbances, and you might start to wake up more often and throughout the night. And that's something to be aware of if you're having problems with what we call sleep maintenance. You might want to start to track your sleep habits. And that's something that I may talk about a little bit more later on in more detail of how to improve sleep, specific steps. But something to be aware of, I think a lot of times people will say things like, oh, older people, they don't need that much sleep. But the reality is we do need about, I've heard different things. Before, when I taught sleep hygiene class a few years, this was probably back in 2011, you know, we used to say that the amount of sleep that people need varies depending on the person. I've seen research, and this research from the Global Council on Brain Health actually says that 7 to 8 hours of sleep a day is what's recommended, particularly for older adults. And that's pretty much what we've heard, I think, most of our lives, that you need 8 hours of sleep. I know that there's some people that claim that they can function well or fairly well with less sleep, but based on these guidelines, 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night is helpful for brain health. Okay. And another thing that sometimes people think is typical is seeing people as they get older, just fall asleep in place anywhere, being sleepy a lot throughout the day. That actually is not a normal part of aging, having that excessive daytime sleepiness, particularly if it's persistent over a long period of time. So that's something to be aware of. If you notice that that's going on with you or someone else, that it may be a sign of a more significant sleep problem. The research that was conducted by the Global Council on Brain Health found that people with chronic inadequate sleep, they were at higher risk for more severe conditions of dementia and depression and some other physical health problems. So sleep is very, very important. They also found in those studies that a regular sleep-wake schedule was associated with better sleep and better brain health. And again, it's important to try to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep for brain health. So that's number 2. So the third and last thing that I'm going to talk about when it comes to brain health is brain health and mental well-being. And when I say mental well-being, I'm talking about a person's own experience of feeling good and functioning well. So it's how they're defining it. And it's their personal assessment of life satisfaction, basically. And functioning well is defined as a person's ability to think and reason and do those typical activities of daily life. So what we know is that, well, number one, when we say mental well-being, it doesn't mean that if you don't have a mental illness that you automatically would consider yourself to have good mental well-being or good emotional wellness or emotional functioning. Some cognitive skills that come with aging are things like, some positive ones I should say, are things like being able to regulate your emotions better impulse control, and those things are associated with positive well-being as self-reported. And there is an association between emotional well-being and brain health. And we know from what I talked about last week as well that beliefs, your personal beliefs and the beliefs of the people around you, society in general, the beliefs particularly about aging can have an impact on a person's emotional well-being, which can ultimately have an impact on a person's brain health. So if you didn't hear me last week, you can go back and listen to my talk. I talked about the relationship between age beliefs and cognitive decline and dementia, and how there is an association between negative age beliefs and things like dementia or cognitive decline, and association between positive age beliefs and improved health or better health as you age. So what we think is very important. So it's important to try to have a realistic outlook on aging. I think that in some societies, particularly ours in the U.S., we tend to slant towards a negative beliefs about aging and about people's ability to really contribute to society as they get older. And if we're absorbing all of that information as time goes on, eventually it will have an impact on us. So there are things that you can do to try to combat that. And one of the things that I talked about last week was keeping an age belief journal. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to the video from last week. Let's see, the last few points are that it's important to know that even if you have some level of cognitive decline, meaning some of your cognitive abilities are declining, like memory and processing speed, you still can have positive emotional well-being or mental well-being, whatever you want to call it. So That's important to note. And just a few things that you can do in order to try to improve your emotional well-being, particularly if you're generally satisfied, and not necessarily someone that is experiencing psychopathology or significant symptoms of depression or anxiety. I mean, some of these things can be helpful, but if it's to that degree, you may need to get professional help. But for people who are generally functioning well and want to maintain or improve their emotional well-being, you can keep a gratitude journal, or do something that I often recommend is do the 3 good things journal. So at the end of each day, maybe before you get ready to go to bed, write down 3 good things that happened that day. And every day, write down something different. And you can do that for a 2 or 3 week period. And over time, you'll have a list of things that you can refer back to if you start to think that, oh, nothing's going right or nothing's going well, just to shift that thinking and your mood to something that's more positive. So the 3 good things journal, gratitude journal, is one way to express gratitude. You can write a gratitude letter to someone that has done something for you that maybe you feel like you have not really had the opportunity or taken the opportunity to express to them. And don't let them know that you're doing it, and then go and take it to them personally and read it to them, or you could do it virtually, read it to them. Also, it's important to make sure that you take time for yourself. So if you can carve out just 15 minutes for yourself daily to do something that you enjoy, that can help to boost emotional well-being as well. As I mentioned earlier, participating in social activities, particularly those things that you enjoy, around people that you enjoy. It's great for keeping our mental faculty sharp and our cognitive functioning in certain areas, our memory and problem solving, keeping those things engaged. Let's see. And find things that you enjoy that make you laugh. And the other thing that I think I mentioned earlier is maybe find an organization that you can volunteer with. One thing that has really been linked to improve emotional well-being is doing something for other people. So if you're volunteering with an organization that helps other people, that can definitely be helpful. So this is, I always forget to say my name early on. So I'm Dr. Melissa Green. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and a registered yoga teacher. Thank you for joining me, and I will talk with you next Tuesday. Also, if you have not already done so, please, if you are a caregiver that is experiencing stress, I want you to go and check out my free resource that helps you to better understand whether or not what you're experiencing is typical, or whether it's at a point where you need to maybe seek some support. And I'll have the link in the comments below. All right. Good night.